and I'll direct my question to Judge Lewis. I want to thank you for not just being here today in your testimony and your commentary, but also for your great service as a member of the Third Circuit. And I wasn't here when you were confirmed, but I'm struck by how different the process that led to your confirmation was compared to this one we're talking about with regard to Judge Garland. What struck me about Judge Garland, the obvious attributes that you would hope every judge or justice would have: sterling academic credentials, the kind of character and experience you would want in a judge or a justice. In his case, a combination of being a lawyer, a prosecutor, and a judge, just a remarkable range of experience. So all of that was impressive, obviously, in his demeanor and his character. But what was interesting to me in meeting him for the first time and sitting in my office talking to him were two things that might be unusual for a judge, might be ever more unusual for a public official: humility and gratitude. The kind of humility that I think is consistent with what you said, Judge Lewis, in one of the statements you made. I think it was with regard to the confirmation of then Judge Alito, about no one having a corner on the marketplace of ideas and about what is right, and that theme that you struck there. So that kind of humility that even with all of his academic training and experience, that he doesn't have all the answers, but also the humility to listen to other people. And secondly, gratitude. I've never met, or maybe rarely have met, someone who is more grateful for the opportunity he had to serve as a prosecutor and to serve as a judge. Talk us through how those attributes, in addition to the others that I mentioned, are critically important to have on the Supreme Court, even though that word supreme would lead you to believe that there's no need of humility.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Casey. It's always good to see you, certainly good to see you here today. Well, you have touched upon the two qualities that, for me, are the most important for anyone holding any public office, but in particular for a judge, and perhaps even more so for a justice on the United States Supreme Court. I'll explain this by telling you about why I testified on behalf of Justice Alito, then Judge Alito's nomination to the Supreme Court 10 years ago. I had worked with him for a number of years on the Third Circuit. I found him to be intellectually honest. I found him to be a person of both humility and gratitude, and all of the other qualities that I think go into making a good judge and a good justice. We disagreed on a lot. We disagreed many, many times in very key areas. We did sometimes join one another in votes, some of them in matters that might surprise people, employment discrimination matters, very significant ones, and some other cases. He was willing to go along with or to join a majority where it may have appeared to be inconsistent with his jurisprudential approach, which was one that was steeped in a far more conservative one than my own. But he was nominated by the President of the United States, and he clearly had all of the qualifications necessary to serve on the United States Supreme Court: excellent educational background, terrific record of service to his country in the Solicitor General's office and as a U.S. attorney, and then as a judge. And I did not believe, and I do not believe, that the mere fact that I disagreed with him ideologically should stand in the way of my standing up and saying, yes, of course he's qualified to be on the United States Supreme Court, in my view. I don't think that a monolithic court that reflects everything that I believe in is appropriate for the country. I am very much in favor, and I think that it is one of the best features of democratic government that we have a multitude of views that go into the judicial decision-making process and the legislative process. It's very important. And the capacity to reach across the aisle or the bench in order to do that and to do it well is critical. And I had observed that during my work with then Judge Alito. And so I believe that Judge Garland reflects that in volumes. As I've mentioned before, the fact that he has been a part of so many cases that have resulted in unanimous decisions is an indication of his capacity to do exactly what I'm describing. It's so important. Corporate decision-making, if you will, group decision-making at that level requires a capacity to be selfless and to instead look out for the interests of the parties and the litigants before you, and also the United States of America. And so the record that we have with respect to Judge Garland is exemplary when it comes to the qualities that you mentioned. And I think that these are not just personal traits, these are traits that we have to bring with us to the important work that we do on behalf of the nation. Thank you.
Well, Judge, thank you, and I want to thank the panel. I know I was late for the other comments that you made. We're grateful you're here and appreciate your ongoing public service, and this work you're doing today is public service. And I want to thank Senator Leahy for leading us in this effort to focus on the qualities, the attributes, and the experience of Judge Garland, and not just being the chairman of the committee, but being committed to what I think is in the Beatitudes, Senator, which is hungering and thirsting for justice, which is one of the reasons he does such good work as our chairman.